So I don't entirely know how I'm going to go through the Club World Cup because I want to talk about some of the games that have been happening, but there's so many games happening at once that I don't think I can really have any way of conceivably talking about everyone individually. So I'm probably going to go through it in days and just talk about each one briefly, which means I won't be able to give like full analysis. Maybe every once in a while I'll stop to talk about like certain games in particular. Like I've done that with the Gold Cup. I just talked about Jamaica and Guatemala, and I did the U.S. Trinidad one. So maybe react to a specific game. I should also say that I haven't been able to watch the full match of every game, like especially the ones that are happening at like 1, 2 in the morning. It's hard to watch that, and it's like yeah, so some of them I only saw highlights of. I looked at some of the stats around those so I could still try and get like some idea of what's going on, but my analysis of especially the later games might not be as good as some of the earlier ones because of that. But with that in mind, let's get into it. We'll start with Inter Miami versus Al Ahly. It's a bit of a minor nitpick, but I'm not sure why Inter Miami chose to wear pink. Like I get like they're known as a pink club and the pink Messi jersey is like now one of the highest selling jerseys on the planet. Like when the home team's wearing red and Al Ahly were the designated home team, I don't understand why they didn't like they just released this really nice teal kit and that would have looked a lot better against a red kit. And it was a bit weird seeing pink versus red because the colors don't clash enough in my eyes. But again, that's more of a minor nitpick. But the game itself was it had some really good goalkeeping. There was a very good start from Al Ahly, I think. The first half was theirs. Inter Miami kind of woke up in the second half. I think the biggest takeaway I had from the game was A, the goalkeepers are really good, but B, some of the finishing I thought could have been better. Like Ali right at the beginning, it was offsides, I know, but like he had an opportunity and he had a one-on-one and he didn't shoot it very well. Like he did get the direction right, but he didn't really get any pace behind it. And I feel like for an opportunity like that, he could have done a lot better with the ball. And again, like with the penalty kick, for instance, with El Ali, Trezeguet completely muffed the follow up, and perhaps it's harder to like follow that up than it looks. Maybe there wasn't much he could do about it, but I felt like he could have gotten a better shot, and it was an open goal if he could have gotten the shot right, but he didn't, and ended up just kind of hitting a tame shot right back to the goalkeeper. So good goalkeeping, but I also thought that some of the finishing could have been better. I also think that the like player introductions were a bit odd. There's this thing that happens whenever a football thing happens in America is that the organizers tend to think that they have to like really go all out and make something American. And sometimes that like MLS tried it in the 90s when they started up. They did things like having a clock that counted up and they wouldn't do draws, they'd do shootouts. And eventually they just switched back to the normal rules of football. And I think that there's some sort of like mistrust with American fans almost that like they can't get into this unless there's some glamorous thing like player introductions like that you have to do to pique their interest. I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think that it's somewhat silly and I know plenty of football fans in America. I mean, I am an American who cares very deeply about football and I didn't get into the sport because of some glamorous player introduction. I got into it just because I liked football. So I don't completely understand that, but that also feels more like a minor nitpick, if anything. So not too much. Messi had a few moments in the game. Of course he did. He nearly scored on a few free kicks. But by and large, good goalkeeping, somewhat poor finishing. I think that characterized the opening clash of the Club World Cup. And I don't know if things are going to get better for Inter Miami and Al Ahly now because this was the like easiest game for both clubs. It's only going to get harder from here, and I feel like a draw doesn't necessarily suit either of them. I feel like one of them maybe would have needed a win if they want to go through, because Palmeiras and Porto also played out a draw. But I thought Palmeiras played pretty well. I'm still fairly confident that Palmeiras will win the group. I made that prediction in the preview, and I'm sticking by it. They, by and large, did do better against Porto from what I saw. They had over twice the XG that Porto did. Again, good goalkeeping in that game. It seems like all of Group A had some really good goalkeeping. So maybe there's just not going to be goals scored in Group A. I think there is some kind of intrigue in a 0-0 draw. It can be boring, but like from what I saw of the Porto Palmeiras game, that game didn't seem very boring, even though it ended 0-0. I also want to quick shout out the Al Ahly and Palmeiras fans, both of which seem to do a very good job of generating an atmosphere and showing up for their team. And I had assumed they would. I've seen like personally now how great of support Al Ahly has and how great of support Egyptian teams have in general because I made my Group A preview and I got a ton of comments from like Egyptians talking about Al Ahly, and I thought that was really cool. That was fun to see, so I enjoyed that a lot. One of the games on my bucket list, I don't know how realistic it is or if I'll ever have a chance to do it, but I really want to see Al Ahly versus Zamalek in person sometime. I don't know how easily that could happen, but I think that'd be a really fun thing to see sometime. So, Group A, 2-0 draws. I'm not changing my predictions too much. I assume it will be Palmeiras and Porto going through. And if anything, the draw doesn't really suit Al Ahly or Inter Miami from their game. Uh, but we'll see. Perhaps something can happen. But no goal scored in that one. On the other hand, in Group B, there were a lot of goals. We'll talk about Bayern and Auckland City, which I think will cause some people to question why Auckland City are in the tournament. I have two things I'd say about this, two like contrasting points. On the one hand, I love seeing Auckland City at the Club World Cup. I don't care that they lost 10-0. I think there's just like something romantic almost about seeing a semi-professional team going up against Bayern Munich. I love that, and it makes you feel like maybe you can do something like that too. I know that's not realistic. Like, obviously, I'm not ever gonna get to play a game against Bayern Munich, but it is really cool, and I love that the Auckland players got the opportunity to do that. Like, of course they were always going to lose and probably pretty badly, but it's still an awesome thing that they get to be there. It's the same reason that I like that San Marino gets to have a football team in like Liechtenstein, or that like Tahiti got to go to the Confederations Cup one time. Like, even when they lost 13-0 to Spain, that was still a really cool thing. And I love that they got there. One of my favorite things I remember is in the 2018 World Cup. I believe it was 6-1. Panama lost to England, and yet they were like overjoyed at full time because they'd scored a goal in the World Cup. And Panama's gotten a lot better since then. Like, I don't know if they'd celebrate that to quite the same extent now, but like there's something really beautiful about that, I think. And so I have no issue with an Oceanic team being in the Club World Cup, even if they are likely to get shellacked every game. One thing I do worry about, though, is the potential it has to completely distort the competitive balance of Oceanic football. Because, like, to European teams, the prize money from the Club World Cup won't, like, massively shift the goalposts, but to Oceanic ones, it will. And Auckland City already dominate Oceania as is, and if they suddenly have a massive influx of funds that no other team on the continent can dream of, I don't think that's a good thing for Oceanic football. So I do worry about that, but I'm not going to complain about an Oceanic team being at the Club World Cup. That then brings me on to the other match in Group B, in which PSG won 4-0. And there's times when it really does look like PSG are just absolutely unstoppable. It seems like, oh heck, I said Group B for Bayern and Auckland City. That was Group C, sorry. Now we're on to Group B. Where Auckland City, not Auckland, where PSG played Atletico Madrid, and it was a 4-0 win for PSG. The really scary thing about PSG is that they seem to just be able to create goals out of nothing, and they've, like, I don't think any of their goals were, like, massively high XG things, and I saw that as an Arsenal fan when they played us in the semis. Like, none of their goals were high XG, but they just found a way to score them. They just do somehow, some way they've scored. And there are times when it really does seem like this team's unstoppable. But then the second half came, and I realized that they're still, like, they're not so unstoppable that they're invincible, PSG. And Atletico Madrid, for at least like 20 minutes, had PSG on the ropes. And that wasn't a very long time in the grand scheme of the game, but it shows that they aren't invincible. I mean, this probably showed the most at the quarterfinal against Aston Villa in the Champions League at Villa Park, where they did concede 3 goals. Like, PSG aren't completely unstoppable, but they still are a very scary team and probably the favorites to win the tournament. But that second half from Atletico Madrid, at least the beginning of it, did give me some hope that PSG aren't a completely unstoppable force of nature. Finally, Seattle Sounders versus Botafogo, and I'm a bit disappointed in the attendance for the Sounders. I had assumed, like, because the Sounders do tend to get more attendance than most clubs in MLS, so I thought that they wouldn't have a problem selling out their stadium for Club World Cup matches where they're getting to play. I mean, maybe they'll get more against PSG and Atletico Madrid. Botafogo aren't at the same, brand power that PSG and Atletico Madrid are, but still, this is the champions of South America you're getting to go up against. So I was somewhat surprised and a bit sad that they only managed to get like half the stadium full. The Sounders, like, I think the official attendance was 30,000, which is mildly disappointing. But the game itself seemed like fairly decent. The Sounders actually had it like they had better XG than Botafogo, I think, is what I saw in the stats. But Botafogo took their chances. That free kick goal from Botafogo was really nice, and their last ditch defending was pretty good. It shows that the Sounders aren't completely out of depth. And I have often I don't know if it's ever going to happen, but I've kind of pondered, what would happen if CONCACAF and CONMEBOL merge? Like, how would MLS teams be able to compete against South American clubs? Because Liga MX teams used to play in the Libertadores and Sudamericana, and they did pretty well. And I do still think that the Liga MX is better than MLS, even though MLS teams keep getting better, and now it's not at all outlandish for MLS teams to beat Liga MX teams. But if Liga MX teams, they can do well in those competitions, surely MLS teams at least can make some decent strides. Obviously they wouldn't win the competition like the Libertadores. No one outside of Brazil does these days. But I do wonder, and the Sounders did a pretty good job, I think, against one of the premier teams, the defending South American champions. So that maybe gives some hope to MLS fans. But at the end of the day, Botafogo still won. Even with the 4-0 loss, I doubt Atletico Madrid won't go out. Will go out. I assume they'll pick up the slacks against the Sounders and Botafogo and still be all right. So, whilst it was an embarrassing loss for them, not too much. If you did make it to the end of this video, please tell me what you think. I'm trying to make it as short as possible. It's kind of hard to do that when I'm talking about so many games. But do you like this format? Is there anything else you'd like to see different? Please do tell me. I am open to whatever you want to say. Thanks for watching.